I do not believe that race should be the defining factor in who gets to vote whatsoever. I do not believe that race should be the defining factor in who gets to vote whatsoever. Gender should be part of it, and I'll tell you why. Women do not have to sign up for the draft. Women do not have to defend this country with their bodies. In fact, the anti-suffragists articulated this and said,
I disagree
we
with the
don't
drafts.
want to be involved with politics. Let me finish. The women who didn't want to be political equals with men said, why would you task us with something we can't do? We can't defend the borders. We can't defend the nation. We can't rule the nation. Men have the monopoly on force. That's for men to do. We want men to protect us and our children. Our role is to raise the children. That's too important. We can't be involved in politics
so it's
for that
important
reason.
For women to raise children, right? It's an important role, right? A role important and equal enough for them to vote on the future of this country and the rules that they live by, right? Or do you think it's not important enough of a role for them to vote?
The problem with that is it comes down to force. So you can have an opinion, and women did. So you don't need voting rights in order to have your voice be heard. A good example of this is prohibition. The Women's Temperance Union got prohibition passed. Bad idea, by the way, but somebody listened to the women, so we got prohibition passed because this was a pet project of the Women's Christian Temperance Union. They did not need to vote to get their voices heard. They did not need to vote to have their agenda passed. So you don't need voting rights to be heard.
So why does it matter then that they do have it?
Because what happens, this is what the anti-suffragists also predicted. They were very smart women. These women were not hateful and they were not stupid, and they've been done dirty by history, which is why I'm here trying to help revive this. Anti-suffrage women said, if we become a political bloc, we lose the moral high ground. What will happen is politicians will pander to us. They will make us just another voting bloc. They will promise a whole bunch of things that sound really good and do what they want anyway.
And they do it already
by
for everybody?
Yes, they do, which is why I'm against it. It's why I don't like the system.
No, for men and for women.
Yeah, that's why I don't like democracy. It's why I don't like the system. But that aside, these women said,
we're clarifying that
if we become just another political voting bloc, we lose the moral high ground we have. Before women could vote, they could stand up and say, we think you need to do something about clean water. We think you need to do something about safety in public parks. We want better schools. We want more prohibitions on alcohol. Whatever it was, their agenda was heard and got passed without them having to vote.
Unless it was something completely too radical, right? And in that case, then they'd be sent to an institution for crazy people and lobotomized.
They did that to men too. They did that to radical men too. It was not a gendered thing.
Basically, individuals, right? People that have a way of thinking that was more individualist, those are the ones that usually get shut down and have their rights trampled upon in history, which is, again, why it is so necessary for the individual to have equal voting rights and an equal voice within the political system that they have to live under. If we were anywhere else, outside of this podcast and debate right now, we'd have to stop talking right now because, there's no point in trying to convince somebody that, an individual has human rights, equal rights, and we're just going to have to agree to disagree.
So the woman on the right, the one that is for women's right to vote, does come off as appealing to a modern audience. I will give her that, albeit Rachel Wilson is correct here. Rachel instantly reminds her here that society is duty and reality based. If men share the burden of holding up all of society's infrastructure and fending off malevolent foreign invaders, right, through the draft, why should they be able to vote to send men off to war? They do not bear the responsibility of seeing it through. You see what I'm saying? Like Rachel here, she's controlling the frame. She's controlling the frame with concrete realities, the draft, physical force, historical precedent, and avoids sounding purely reactionary. Her tone is confident and unapologetic. Her opponent, however, tries to pull this sort of leftist liberal tactic of acting like she has the moral high ground, appealing to inclusion and just trying to appeal to a mainstream audience. Let's keep going, though.
on that and make it clear to the public on where we stand on your stance being anti-women's rights, anti-voting rights, anti-equality. And my whole point here is to just make it clear that that is the case and that that is not representative of the conservative movement of a whole, and that it is counteractive, counterintuitive, and a negative thing for us because it's just turning more young women to the left seeing these kinds of positions.
You don't think the fact that we have to pander to the emotions of young women, what you just told me is, Rachel, don't say that out loud, because we have to pander to the feelings of young women because they have a lot of voting power, they have a lot of political power, and so we have to tell them what they want to hear, and we have to give them what they want.
The truth.
We have,
Hold on, let her finish.
We have to tell them what they want to hear. We have to give them what they want, because if we don't, they won't vote for us anymore. Rachel, don't you think that's a problem? And
you don't
I'm
care
saying,
about voting.
I'm saying that you're thinking about it wrong, and most people do. The whole framing of how you're framing the argument is the problem. The system is the problem. We shouldn't have to appeal to the emotions of certain voting blocks, which is what Black Lives Matter is, which is what the feminist agenda is, which is what identity politics is. When you give everybody one person, one vote, you end up with all these special interest groups. You end up with all these little voting blocks, and politicians have to pander to them. And so you get these radicalized movements fighting for this group's rights and that group's rights. And I'm saying, I do think that that's we've ended up in a place where, with your universal democracy, where everybody gets a vote, we're going to end up in nonstop, like, basic gang wars. I'm against women. I'm against women voting. I am continuing the proud tradition of my anti-suffrage.
But Rachel, you voted before in the past.
Yes, I'll explain.
Okay, let's explain that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So first of all, I'm here to.
And you'll never vote again.
Shush your mouth.
You'll
for
never vote
5
again.
seconds, you little yappy machine. I'm getting to it. It's my turn to talk now.
Go for it.
I'm here to carry on the proud tradition of the majority of women who are against women's suffrage and did not want to be a political voting bloc, and were very happy with their duties as mothers and wives and community builders and thought that was extremely important. I agree with them wholeheartedly and all their reasons why they didn't want the vote. Now, yes, I did vote, and yes, I will vote again, and I'll tell you why: to cancel the vote of a feminist somewhere and to double my husband's vote. However you want to look at it. Whoever Andrew votes for, that's who I vote for, and that's how I'm going to cancel out some feminist somewhere's vote.
So you're against voting. You voted in the past. We'll vote in the future. If that's not hypocrisy, I don't know what is, Rachel.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Do you think people watching
You just said I'm a
think,
hypocrite. Let me address it.
Yes, you are.
If I had when I was in college, let's say, like you said, when you were in college and you get told that it's really not bad, it's not even a life, whatever. I get pregnant, I have an abortion in college, and then later I learn, wait, that is actually murdering a human being. I'm against that and it's wrong. And I go out and I tell people, don't get an abortion. It's wrong. Am I a hypocrite?
No, because you actually changed your behavior based on new information.
Well, it's not a behavior you can change.
You can change your ideas, what you espouse, and your behavior based on new information.
So if I vote,
you'd be a hypocrite.
If I vote to cancel a feminist vote, that's hypocritical.
You'd be a hypocrite, Rachel, is if you found out this information personally were against. Now that you know this, that it's bad and murder, and then still went out and told women is okay and it's not murder, then that is hypocrisy. In your case, what we were talking about previously was voting, right? So you don't believe women should have the right to vote.
But I live in reality, Driana.
We'll vote in the future.
We don't want to deny reality. You keep telling Andrew he was denying reality. We live in this time and place we live in, okay? So I have to be here talking to women like you. I have to be here talking to women like you to talk some sense into you, to persuade everybody out there that you're wrong, and I have to go and vote, because otherwise only the feminists are going to vote.
You don't have to do anything,
Rachel. I do. It's my duty.
Who's forcing you?
It's my duty.
Oh, it's your duty.
Yes.
Okay.
Speaking of which.
Yeah, so she did have an appearance on the Whatever podcast with Andrew as well.
would you need financial independence if you're married?
Because when
Because
people
That's
have been, when
counterintuitive.
people have historically been in positions of power over other people abuse that power. When you have any kind of relationship in
Oh,
history
man. This
where
is
there's
femcon stuff. Okay.
no, I'm actually extremely conservative, and
That's,
because of
feminist conservative femcon.
because
Yeah.
of the fact that women back in the day were not able to be financially independent. They were in a position where they couldn't be their individual selves.
Right this second, right now, as we speak, if you're married, can your wife go into your account and take your money?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I don't
and,
understand.
And vice versa as well.
So what do you need independence for?
So you can be your own individual person.
You're still your own individual person.
Feminism also sort of frames, the history of men and women, you know, like men have oppressed women for ages. That's how they'll frame it. That men have just been these tyrants, for ages, and that, women just couldn't get out from underneath their boot, right? Like that's how they frame it, and it's just total bullshit. The idea that that men are the oppressors and that that's all modern feminism. Men and women throughout history have suffered together. And that's actually the truth. There has been a small amount of normally men, the highborn, sort of, powerful people at the top. That they have been the ones that, in power for most of history. This hyper individualism of modernity is all fairly new, and so it just goes to show that feminism does continue to frame things in the most toxic manner possible. But yeah, let's dive back in.
Do you think women have duties?
Women have duties. Do you think?
Well, women have rights. You've spent the whole time talking about what
I
rights
think-
women have. Do women have duties?
I think adults have duties. Yes.
Well,
What duties do you think women have?
well, you would say men have a duty
what
to
duties do
protect
you-
the homeland,
what
right?
duties do you believe women have?
Oh, I'm not going to give you any answers. I want to know what you think. I
said-
know what I think.
I think that adults have duties and responsibilities as adults.
But are they the same?
And in a
Are men's and
in a-
women's duties the
and
same?
in a family context, then those differ, right?
Yep.
Or they may be similar depending on the structure that they have set up. So, for
Okay.
example, in the past, when people could afford to live on one income and the man could afford to have a stay-at-home wife, then obviously the roles of men and women differed to make it a working partnership, right? Nowadays, unfortunately, and this is not any of our faults other than the government and elite politicians and all that, most men and women do have to work within the family structure. So then obviously their duties and their roles and responsibilities within the households have changed. They have to adapt so that things make sense.
Such a long answer. You could have given me like a 5-word answer. It would have been
But I
way
didn't
better.
because it's a
No,
free
because you like to
country.
hear yourself talk.
Free speech.
So
You like to hear
do
me talk
men,
too, or else you
no,
wouldn't
I
have
really
come
don't.
here.
Do men have a duty to protect our nation?
I think that, well, hold on, let me unpack that.
Whose duty is it to protect
our
the nation?
How?
From enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yes, foreign and domestic. So it depends, right? So men can be police officers, so can women. That would be protecting against domestic enemies, right? Police officers, FBI agents, TSA agents.
Yeah, I know what
okay.
they are, but do you
Okay,
think both
so
men and
that- so
women
your
should
question-
equally do
so
those
your
jobs?
question
Or is
is-
that men's duty?
So your question is very broad because both men and women
No,
do
I'll make it
protect-
very concise.
Do protect this country domestically and abroad.
When it comes
So
to
what are you
force,
trying to
ultimately,
say?
when it comes to force, there's a bunch of illegals trying to cross the border.
Yes.
Somebody has to use physical force to stop them. Whose duty is that? Men or women or both?
It used to be that they'd send a lot of male foot soldiers, right, in for these kinds of things. Nowadays, we use more technology, right, for those kinds of interventions.
Always
so it's
people on the border, though. We have border enforcement
Yes,
agents down there
yes.
with guns. Do
And
you think,
there's
are you for
mostly men.
equality in that job? Do you think we should have equal women and men defending the border?
I think that there should be a standard of can you meet these job requirements? Can you lift certain heavy things? If not, then you do not get that
Okay,
position
that's
because
fair.
it puts us at,
Yeah,
at
that's
risk.
fair. Would you say the same thing in the military military, like you can only be a Green Beret if you can pass the standard. And if you're a
absolutely.
woman and you pass the standard, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you aware that there's never been a woman who has been able to make it through special forces training like Green Berets?
Okay, then they shouldn't be in that
Okay.
position.
So if only men can do those things,
That Green Beret position, but I just mentioned that there are plenty of other positions that do defend our country.
okay, what percentage
Foreign and
of
domestically.
women do you think are on the front lines in war or
Very
defending
minimal.
the border? Very minimal.
I'm not.
What
I'm
about
not making the argument that.
what about
women
critical
are,
infrastructure jobs like pouring cement, getting down in the sewer system and treating the sewer? What
Mm-hmm.
about oil rig work, the really heavy duty shit that keeps society running?
Keeps
how
society
come?
running.
Yeah, how come only like 2% of those people are women? And even in those fields, they're really usually just like holding a sign
Rachel,
or doing office work.
I'm not devaluing in any way men's contributions to society.
Okay.
I think that's super important, and we should value them because of that. That's part of my whole argument that
Right.
women should respect men and thank men for their sacrifices to society.
Well, they're not just super important, they are of utmost importance, right? Because they can't do those jobs. And without those jobs, they wouldn't have their cushy office job that they do inside their AC. They wouldn't. That's the thing, is that like feminism aims to dismantle the patriarchy. But it's the patriarchy that's actually ingrained into the very nature of our coexistence that gives them the life that they have. That's why it's just so disrespectful, and it's just hilarious, honestly. It is. So
Society as a
I
whole.
agree. But
What
then
I'm
why
trying
should
to-
we give women equal rights with
Let me
men
tell you-
when
let
men
me
are
tell
the only
you-
ones that can do those
Okay.
critical things?
Sure.
Men are the only ones who
that's a
can
good
do the hard, forceful jobs that provide us with security and all of this technological infrastructure that allows you to pretend that we are equal with men. We are not equal
not
with
the
men.
same.
That
We are
doesn't
equal
it doesn't mean that
in
we
value.
don't equal in value, I agree. But that relates to duties. Equal in value relates to our duties to society. Men's duties to society are things like building and maintaining infrastructure, providing safety and security, keeping out enemies who are going to come in and, like especially pre-industrial revolution. Oh, you're not going to cut me off after all that. Come on. Prior to industry and technology, men literally had to keep the barbarian hordes away from the gates, okay?
So this has to do with
keep women
voting. Again,
safe.
how?
Because people
back.
think that we've escaped this natural fundamental thing, and we haven't. It still requires force at the end of the day. You still need men out there. Look at Iran, look at Ukraine, look at the borders, all the national borders. You still need men with force to keep society going. That's men's duty.
I agree.
What are women's duties to society?
I just named them. They have historically
Reproduction.
been primarily homemakers, right? And also women have a duty that men can't do, period, which is childbirth.
I'm glad you brought that up. Why aren't they having any babies anymore?
Because the situation for them is not apt, is not appropriate. It is a lot more difficult, especially when it comes to the economy, to have kids, one. And two, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, women need strong men to lead, right, and to be in a family with. And unfortunately, the men of today, I'm not saying all of them, but the men of today are quite literally not the same as men 50 years ago. In fact, and there's actual, you can pull this up, Brian, but I have it written here too. Men are actually physically different than they were years back, as in men nowadays, on average, have lower testosterone
I'm
than
aware
their
of all that.
grandfathers. So for you to say that because men have to be the ones leading and all of this, you're trying to say that, oh, women are not having kids because of women's right to vote or something like that, which is crazy. I'm saying that we need to build strong men back up. We need to encourage them to take care of themselves, to get healthy, to build up their hormones, get their testosterone right, get unaddicted to pornography, drugs, alcohol, vices, and then women will naturally want to have families again. But right now,
Will
Yeah.
they? Okay.
but right now there is
I was about to say, I agree with all of those points. men do fall short in many aspects in today's society. In modernity, men have been porn addiction is the highest it's ever been. Men lack meaning and purpose. I do know that testosterone is lower than what it used to be, and that could be due to our diet, could be due to microplastics. There's a few different studies I've looked at that try to analyze how or why that is the case. And these are good points that she had, and then she all of a sudden hits you with and then the women will change. Yeah, okay.
Isn't as high of a percentage of men that women want to, what you call, submit to, right, to get into a marriage with.
So women are not fulfilling their duty to society because man bad.
The
men just need to get better. The men need to get better. They need to improve. The men are in a sad, sorry state, and that's why the women don't want to have babies.
It's a fact. It's not going to happen. You won't admit to that.
Why do you think it's not going to happen?
Because it's just not.
Because you take it for granted that simps are going to always come to the rescue, don't you? Have you heard of a little place called Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Do you know that they used to have? Okay, what about Iran? What about a little place called Iran?
Yeah.
Okay, what about Russia? Russia's not even Muslim. How about Russia?
I'm talking about the United States.
Okay, but what I'm telling you is historically, there's multiple places around the world where, regardless of religion or other factors, women had rights, and then the men said, not so much anymore. Why do you think that won't and couldn't happen here? Other than the fact that you've lived a privileged female life that leads you to believe that this could never happen to me.
I don't think it's a privilege to demand equal voting rights.
You can demand it all day, sweetie, but if the patriarchy doesn't grant it, you're out of luck.
Rights as well. And I don't think rights are determined based on force.
That's all super cute. So what happens
no,
when...
it's not super cute. Do you believe rights inherent?
Rights are literally force.
Human rights are derived on whether somebody else can take them from you or not? I don't agree with that.
Now, be careful, because I know you don't know philosophy. That's That's an is statement. It's not an ought claim. I'm not saying rights ought to be taken. Mm-hmm. I'm saying if tomorrow men don't want to enforce women's rights, you and I can't do anything about it.
I don't know. I can't say right now that I know for sure that would be the case, just because, we have guns, the great equalizer.
I see.
So physical force isn't as much of a determining factor between the sexes. And I think, at least in Florida, where I'm from, an equal or close to equal amount of women own guns as men. And it doesn't matter whether you're, 7 feet or 5 feet as a man. All you need is a small little handgun to be at equal.
Who do you think wins? Men with guns or women with guns? Just a thought.
Yeah, I'm actually
equal levels.
I'm actually a firearms instructor myself, and I teach women.
So you understand that guns are the great equalizer.
And what I understand is that.
I don't think.
But as a whole, so on an individual level, if there's an attacker coming at you, your best shot is a gun for sure.
Yes.
A pew pew. I don't know if you can say that on YouTube.
Yeah, and if men wanted to take over and stop letting women vote, women, you don't think women with guns in this country would do something about it?
Describe to me how you think that would look.
It'd be terrible. It'd be bloody.
You think that the girls are gonna? So we just took away rights.
Mm-hmm. What did
the women do? What did the women do about it? They went into the street and screamed. Everybody saw the videos of the liberal women screaming at the sky, promising they're never going to have sex again. Which is now you're starting to figure out you don't have to have if you just don't do the sex. We saw them vowing, all kinds of things. We're gonna do something, and they didn't do anything.
What were you expecting them to do?
Well, you said they would get guns and take the rights back. I'm wondering why they didn't do that.
Well, it was never a right, and it was never a constitutional right. Whereas written in the U.S. Constitution.
So you think if it was in the Constitution, then they would have revolted with guns?
Then they would have had probably a more objective, valuable reason to do that, but it's not, right?
But would they, though? Do you really think women are going to collectivize? So
no, I don't think most women want to kill their kids.
Why in all of human history have women never overthrown men as a group?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a good
Usually men
question.
have been the ones to fight the wars, to go to war, to choose.
But why did women wait until 1920 when the law changed? Why didn't they just rise up as a group and take their rights before that?
We've never had a civil war that I know of between men and women in any kind of civilization in the past before. Because usually communities operate as one. It hasn't been, men versus women. You could technically say in places like Iran, you have women's rights movements that do, advocate for their rights as
they always have to beg and ask who do they have to ask to their rights to be granted by?
Okay, I grant you that position. What I'm saying is that rights moralistically do not come from force, right?
That's just an assertion. What are you basing that on?
From the fact that people have inherent human rights.
According to who?
Do you believe in natural rights?
It's not about what I believe. According to who?
Natural rights. That's
whether I believe it or not has nothing to do with anything.
Same.
If men with guns don't grant the rights, how do you have the right?
It doesn't mean that because men, again, you're conflating two different things.
You're saying should.
Conflating two different things.
You're saying, I think we should have rights regardless. But I'm saying
rights don't come from physical differences and being more physically strong in any kind of way. Do you agree with that statement? That
it doesn't matter if I agree.
Okay, I'm asking you, do you agree that rights do not come from objective, like physical force?
Let me just grant that I do believe that. Can you prove that? How can you demonstrate that rights do come from, they just exist, right? They're just granted by what? By what?
I think they're natural rights.
They're natural,
yes.
Okay. And so what happens if tomorrow the men violate your right to vote and they stop letting you into the polling center and they say you can't vote anymore, Brianna, you're a woman and we're not going to let you?
That'd be a bad thing. But
what would you do about it?
Personally, I mean, I don't know, go somewhere where women do have egalitarian rights. I don't know.
Okay.
First of all, that's not going to happen.
What I'm trying to say is it can't be natural. It can't be natural, and here's why.
Okay.
The natural state of the world is patriarchy. That's the natural truth of how things exist. So any illusion you have that we have these inherent rights granted to us by God, by nature.
God.
Yeah, you can think it's by God. I don't think that. The Bible doesn't say anything about that. The Bible doesn't say equal rights for everyone, make sure the women have equality. In fact, the Bible says men are supposed to be subject to their husbands and to their priests, and they're supposed to be quiet in the church, and they're supposed to ask their husband if they have a theological question, and that they should submit to their husband. That's what God says.
That's in your personal interpretation.
So you believe in like astrological New Age God, like the universe or something?
No, I think that there's biblical proof and evidence of God valuing man and woman.
Of course, He values them the same.
So that's what I'm basing it off of.
But no,
Rachel.
God can value men and women the same, and still He created a system. You talked about naturalism.
God created legal systems.
God created the natural world that we live in, right?
Yes, not legal systems.
In that natural world, there is hierarchy, right?
Sure.
There's always people who are at the top and then people beneath them. In every structure, whether it's a business, a government, society, all structures are hierarchical. There is no such thing as equality. There's always people with more power. There's people who are taller, prettier, smarter, more talented.
Okay, that's God's creation, yes.
Yes, so that's hierarchy. That means we're not equal.
Well, it doesn't even need to be hierarchical.
We can be equal in value.
Yes, that's what I'm arguing.
God values women, but that doesn't mean He didn't grant men authority over us. He granted men authority over us. That's why they're bigger. That's why they're stronger. I know you don't like that, but
I don't. Wait.
The proof.
Don't put words in my mouth.
Okay. Well, you disagree with that clearly.
No, I do believe that men are bigger than us normally, and physically stronger.
You think that we're equal with them, though?
We have equal value, yes. Therefore, we have to have equal representation. We're like going around in a circle with this.
Equal representation. Okay.
Yes.
Which biblical kingdom granted women equal representation under the government?
I don't know nor care, but I do remember reading.
So you're not Christian.
But I do remember
what God
reading,
are you talking
but
about?
I
You could
do
be talking
remember,
about Satan for all I know. What
but
God?
I do remember reading
what God do you
in
believe
the.
in?
But I do remember reading in the Bible that Jesus wasn't particularly a fan of politicians. Period.
You
Tax
would be wrong.
collectors
Yeah,
or
that's
anything
not what you
like
think
that.
it is.
So
You don't know anything about any of that. Don't bring up the Bible if you don't know, because I'll just
So,
waste you on it again.
Again, there's so many religions that come out of
Okay,
the Bible.
what God do
and all
you
that.
believe in then?
I do believe in the God from the Bible. Yes.
So
but
do you
again,
believe in the Bible?
Yes, I believe in the Bible, but
Then
I've
show
read it
me where
myself.
in the Bible it says that women have equal political rights with men, or that women and husbands and wives have equal authority in the home.
It doesn't say that.
Okay.
Anywhere.
So then why do you believe in that?
Because I'm basing my argument on God assigning equal value to men and women.
Yeah, they can have equal value, but men can still have authority. Do you think?
Do you think where in the
men?
Bible
do you
does
think
it
women and men
prescribe-
should have equal authority in the home or in
Where
the government?
in the Bible does it say, or does Jesus particularly prescribe men vote and women don't?
There's no democracy in the Bible. That's another reason I don't believe in it.
Okay.
There is no such thing as it's monarchies. God granted us kings and gave us rulers.
Okay, so we should go back
So
to
you
monarchies.
don't believe in the
Rachel.
Bible?
We should
I
go
think
back
so,
to
yes, but
monarchies. Why,
I
why
do,
don't
but-
you practice? There's monarchies all over the world. Why don't
Where?
you practice what we preach?
Where?
Actually, was it Thailand or one of those
Christian
countries?
monarchies?
Not
If there's a
Christ-
Christian monarchy, that's where I'm headed.
Thailand, I believe, has some kind of sect or some kind
Isn't Thailand mostly Muslim now?
of. They do have a large
Yeah,
sect
so
of it
I'm
as
not
well.
gonna go there because-
But there are plenty of other places where
Where?
you can live
Show
under.
me the Christian monarchy
live
I can
under
go live
a
under.
closer version, or actually, I think it was the Philippines or Thailand, one of those.
Again, not
And they
Christian.
would, supposedly exterminate like drug users and whatever across the
Yeah,
country.
Singapore and the Philippines do that.
Exactly. So, again, there's a lot more countries on the outside that have the system that you currently like.
Okay, but back
you
to
don't-
this, right in the Bible, and I think it's 1 Timothy 2:12 says that men are supposed to be in authority over women and that women must submit to their husband.
Again, I'm not going to.
So if you believe,
I'm
you
not
don't
gonna make
believe in the
this-
Christian God and you don't believe in the Bible,
you
if
do
you
that?
think that's
Can you do
incorrect.
that and also vote? Do you think those two are at odds with each other?
You could. Do I think you should? Those are different
So
claims.
that's your personal
How
opinion.
things are versus how things ought to be. I don't think you ought to be voting. No.
Okay.
As a woman.
And we're
Can
never-
you right now? Yes.
Okay, and we're never going to change each other's minds.
No,
on that
but
subject.
what I'm asking you is how you can. You are
anybody-
you are the worst.
or anybody
You're the
watching.
most contradictory woman I've ever debated. You'll talk about individual rights on one hand, and then say I want the government to come in and force equality for women, and you'll say I believe in the Christian God in the Bible, and then you'll say, well, not that part. I don't like the 1 Timothy 2:12 part. Forget that. And I want democracy, not a monarchy. That seems icky. I think Jesus thought this, even though that's not what the
Ma'am,
Bible says. I'm
the
just going to
only-
make it up.
no,
My point
Rachel.
is that your belief in women's rights, you have to ask the men to guarantee your rights. Any rights you have are granted, guaranteed, and enforced by men only.
Fantastic.
And the minute they don't want to do that anymore, you don't have them.
Okay.
So if you want to live
Does
in
it
reality,
make it right? Does it make it right? That is my argument.
that's an is statement. That's not an ought statement.
Just
Now,
answer the question. Does it make it right?
I don't agree to the same paradigm as you. I don't believe in rights, like human rights. Everybody has rights.
Right,
I
you're
have rights. You have
special,
rights.
and
I
you
believe in
believe-
duties. We have duties to each other. We have duties to society.
We have duties, but not
to
rights.
God. Correct.
We have duties, but not rights.
Correct.
As individuals. That's
yes.
what you believe.
Yes.
Okay, I disagree. I
But
believe
what
we have
you
rights.
believe in is fairy tale stuff.
No, it's
only
practical.
there, but it's only there granted to you by men. Do you understand that?
I understand that, Rachel. Do
So
you
then you'd better
understand-
be nice to
Do you
them. And you'd
understand-
better stop arguing that you don't need them and we should have our own money and
you're
you should
not-
have your own money
you're
and we're
trying
all
to
going to
put-
just live as
you're trying to
individuals.
put words in my mouth.
This
I've never
rugged
once-
individuality that you believe in doesn't exist.
I've never once argued that we don't need men and that we shouldn't value men or anything like that, Rachel. Again, stop trying to put words in my mouth. You know exactly what you're doing. My only argument has been that regardless of whether it is because of, the generosity of men that we do have rights, it doesn't negate the fact that it's still basically what should be the case. That should be
according
the
to
baseline.
you, because you prefer it.
That women and men have equal value under the law.
Why does that mean women need political power?
Because
having equal value doesn't mean you should have power.
Because we all live under the system, right? We all have a voice on the system that we want to live under.
She's doing bird hands.
I'm Hispanic. I talk with my hands. Soy cubana.
I have a collab coming out with Homath really soon too, guys, by the way.
But again, our rights don't come from whether people or not can overpower us.
Yes, they do. They actually literally do.
Because we have inherent value and worth.
According to who?
Regardless of gender or race or demographic. You disagree with that?
I didn't say I disagree with it. I'm saying I don't think, you say we should. Mm-hmm. I'm saying
we should.
I don't care about what we should. I'm saying, I'm the one now saying I live in reality where things are actually how they are. Mm-hmm. And in reality, men grant rights and take away rights at will. And I don't think it's the correct way to look at history or the correct way to look at society to say everyone has a say, everybody has these rights, especially when you've detached them from duties, because you still haven't told me a duty women have to men. Men have duties to women, right?
Which ones? Name them.
Which duties do men have to women?
To women specifically, not to the country or anything like that. What duty does Brian have to any specific woman out there?
Well, I'm not talking about individuals.
No, I am talking about.
Okay, well,
really
that's
quick,
a different thing.
Really quick, can we define the terms here? Can we define duty and can we define rights?
Yeah.
Well, rights are just an entitlement absent duty. It's something that you just deserve.
Yep.
And women love to talk about what they deserve. The deserving. I deserve. Right? Women
also
think of the world this way. This is a gender difference. Women think of the world as, but it should be, and I deserve. And men think of the world as, but it is, and nobody's coming to rescue me. Okay? That's an inherent difference.
Fantastic. Get to the second point. Define what is a duty that people have to one another. What is a duty that I have?
A duty is
what duty do I have?
A duty is a moral obligation to God.
Okay, to God. Okay, so we're getting religious
and
again.
Via it being to God,
what duty
to
would
the
you
rest of
assign
humanity.
me to any man that exists out there right now?
You don't have an individual duty to an individual man because you're not married. But as a woman, you have a duty to society to do one of a couple of things. Either produce the next generation or support and help those who are producing the next generation in whatever capacity you can, if you can't do that. That's what women's duties to society are, because if we don't do that, society dies.
Gotcha.
Everything collapses.
What if
men have a duty to provide protection, infrastructure, all the things I've already talked about, because if they don't do that, we all die.
Okay.
Everything crumbles.
Okay.
That's what a duty is.
Yeah.
It's something we're obligated to do outside of ourselves, because if we don't, catastrophe ensues. You care about each, and the reason is because you care about you, okay? You care about individuals and what the individual wants and what the individual makes them happy, because you want to pursue what you like and what you prefer and what makes you happy. It comes from a place of selfishness that you want to defend.
How is it more selfish for me to do what I want than it is to prescribe other people what they should be doing?
Well, because here's what motivates me. Here's what motivates me. The reason I'm here, I don't give a what adult people want. Adult women, I don't care. I care about what about what feminism has done to children. Okay. That's my primary beef with it. And if you go into the last chapter of my book, I go over all of the hell that we have unleashed on children who pay the primary price for us telling women, you don't have to do anything, sweetie. You just do whatever you want with your life and whatever makes you happy. And we're going to arrange all of human society around women and what makes them happy and how they feel. The people that pay the price for that is primarily children and secondarily everyone else. I don't care what you want to do for a career or what makes you happy.
I know you don't, and I don't care what you want to do with yours either.
You should care about the future of the human race.
Yep.
You should be producing the next generation, and you should be living your life in a way that is best for them, not for you. That's what I believe.
We've been here like, what, 5 hours now?
Yeah, we're just, there's a few chats that are finishing up. We have Tomrin, you can boil the vote issue down to the fact that men are forced to go to war if need be. Women have got the comfort of the vote without the responsibility on top of abandoning their procreating.
I am not in favor of any kind of draft or men being
It doesn't matter. We live in reality and we have a
to go to
draft.
war.
We have a draft, though. You're not getting rid of it, and it's not going anywhere.
Yes, that can actually,
now things can change, Brian.
That's a
Imagine
larger,
that. Wow.
that's actually
another
more
contradiction.
Realistic. That is more realistic than women having their right to vote taken away,
Yeah,
Rachel.
but that wouldn't be perpetually binding. Like, okay, you get rid of the draft, but
war is not going away,
some
so
sort
the
of-
draft is not going away.
Definitely
Even
not.
if
Although
they
I don't think
passed a
it'll ever
law?
be used because of, like you mentioned,
wait,
Rachel,
we're closer.
technology.
Oh, that's crazy. You don't
Did
think
you just see
Oh my
how many
God.
men were killed in Russia and Ukraine over the past few years?
I'm talking about the
Technology
US. The
did
US,
not.
Rachel.
It would be the same
we're at
thing
war
if we
with
were.
Iran?
We
Yes,
have service people who are being killed right now there.
which I disagree with. What I'm saying, my argument is that we are not going to invoke a draft anytime.
How can you say
soon.
You
that
can't say
definitively?
that. We're
I
going
wish there
to.
was
In
a-
fact, it's inevitable that we will again at some point.
Okay.
It's inevitable that we will.
Well, we'll see if we're all
She just
alive
lives in
the next
Delulu land where
50
she has
years to see.
normalcy bias where in her lifetime this is how it's always been, therefore it's always going to be that way. So another fallacy, the
No,
normalcy
that's just
bias.
statistical probability.
No,
of things
it's not.
happening.
You have no statistics to back that up. You just keep asserting
Wait,
garbage.
wait, Rachel, wouldn't statistics...
Okay, are we done?
Hold on,
Since we just finished our
Statistics would bear out
closing
that we're
arguments.
going to
Well, yes,
probably
we do
have
the
a
closing
draft.
arguments,
yes.
but we also allow people to have some chats come through.
right.
But wouldn't the statistically, there have been...
The fact that we have
There has
the kind
been
of technology
conscription.
that doesn't require boots on the ground like we did in previous wars.
Women think that because
we're
they have
gonna
no
have even
idea.
more
You have
advanced
no idea about
technology
war.
within
That's
all
not
gonna be-
true.
years
It's
to
going to be
come.
drone...
Yeah, so unfortunately, she's entitled. She's quite honestly insufferable. And she clearly doesn't know how reality just operates, right? And a lot of them operate under this delusion, under these delusions, I must say. And it's kind of sad. If you like debates like this and you like breakdowns, like and subscribe. I am a very, very small channel and would appreciate the support. I'm thinking about, breaking down more Andrew Wilson or Rachel Wilson debates going forward. I also plan on diving into more philosophers. I just did a video on Thomas Aquinas. You should go check that out. But you guys have a blessed rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one.